After months of silent tension inside Buckingham Palace, King Charles has made his boldest move yet. In a quiet but historic shift, Camilla steps back, and Catherine steps up. The Princess of Wales is no longer waiting in the wings. She's leading the monarchy's future, with the public fully behind her. The crisis within the palace. There's a chill behind palace doors, and it's not just from the London rain. As King Charles continues his treatment for cancer, royal life has quietly shifted into uncharted territory. While the king remains head of state, those closest to him say he's no longer driving the day-to-day decisions of the monarchy. His absence, though subtle, is deeply felt. Meetings are quieter, engagements are postponed, and worst of all, the sense of direction feels lost. This vacuum of leadership has sparked what insiders now call a crisis of confidence inside the royal household. With the king out of action, the spotlight naturally moves to Queen Camilla, his longtime companion and now consort. But there's a problem. The public simply isn't buying it. Though Camilla has taken on more responsibilities, her public image remains divided, even now. For many, her presence still feels like a reminder of a painful past. And while she's carried herself dutifully, she hasn't won hearts, at least not in the way the monarchy needs during such a vulnerable time. Behind the scenes, aides and advisors are in quiet panic. The future of the monarchy can't just be managed. It has to be reimagined. Britain is no longer a place where tradition alone holds power. The royal brand needs to connect emotionally, not just ceremonially. And this is where a quiet but powerful shift is happening. Catherine, Princess of Wales, is no longer seen as just the next queen consort. She's becoming the unofficial face of the monarchy, the symbol of continuity, compassion, and credibility. Even in her absence due to illness, the public's loyalty to her has only grown stronger. Her silence spoke volumes. Her dignity, unmatched. And within royal circles, her name has become central to every strategic conversation. One palace insider put it bluntly, "We're not in the Diana era anymore, but people still want that warmth, that elegance, and Catherine delivers it without drama." As Charles focuses on his health and Camilla fails to capture the mood of the nation, Catherine's quiet strength has become impossible to ignore. She brings something no one else in the royal family can offer right now: unity. She has the respect of the institution, the love of the people, and the ability to carry the crown into a new age. The crisis hasn't ended, but its solution may already be stepping into the light. The public's heart lies with Catherine. If you want to understand the future of the monarchy, don't look at the throne. Look at the people. And right now, the people have spoken loud and clear. Catherine, Princess of Wales, is their queen in everything but title. Across every poll, in every headline, and on every social platform, one message dominates. The public trusts Catherine. They admire her resilience, her poise, and her unwavering sense of duty. But more than that, they feel connected to her in a way that no other royal, not even Queen Camilla, has managed to achieve. Even as she stepped back from public view to recover from a serious illness, Catherine's absence was more powerful than many other royals' presence. While Camilla was seen attending events and standing beside the king, it was Catherine the nation missed. And when she finally returned, even briefly, the reaction was overwhelming. Tears, applause, and a flood of emotional support across the country. So why her? Why does Catherine inspire such rare devotion? Part of it is the way she carries herself. She doesn't demand attention. She doesn't chase headlines. She lets her actions speak for her, and people notice. Whether it's quietly championing mental health awareness or launching her Shaping Us campaign for early childhood development, her causes feel human, not performative. And then there's the legacy. Catherine is often seen as the emotional heir to Princess Diana, not because she imitates her, but because she channels the same warmth, sincerity, and sense of mission. To many, she feels like a modern royal who understands the real world. A mother, a daughter, a woman who faces challenges but keeps showing up with grace. Meanwhile, Camilla's popularity has hit a ceiling. Despite years of public service and carefully managed media appearances, she's never quite connected with the public on a deeper level. There's a formality to her image that keeps people at a distance, something Catherine naturally bridges. In a monarchy built on perception, public loyalty is everything. And right now, the crown's future is being shaped not by ceremonies or titles, but by emotional truth. And the truth is this: the people see Catherine as the one leading them forward, not with loud declarations, not with controversy, but with quiet strength, the kind that holds a nation together when everything else feels uncertain. Camilla's rise and lingering shadows. For years, Camilla worked to transform her image, from the most controversial woman in royal history to queen consort. And to her credit, she did rise. She stood beside Charles through every chapter, took on patronages, delivered speeches, and kept a steady hand during moments of royal tension. But no matter how much her role expanded, one truth never changed: she's never been fully embraced. Camilla's rise to queen consort wasn't marked by triumph, but by tolerance. The public didn't cheer her in, they simply didn't object loud enough. That silent approval was more of a compromise than a celebration. And now, in this fragile moment, that compromise feels shaky. While Camilla's public appearances remain polished, they are rarely personal. She speaks at engagements, attends formal dinners, smiles for photographers, but still, she remains emotionally distant to many. People may respect her position, but they don't feel moved by her presence. There's no surge of affection when she walks into a room. There's no collective pause when she speaks. She plays her part, but she doesn't ignite the crowd. The past never fully left her. Despite years of effort, the story of Charles, Diana, and Camilla still lingers in public memory. And while time has softened the scandal, it hasn't erased the discomfort. In quiet corners of the internet, and even whispered among palace watchers, Diana's ghost still walks beside Camilla, a reminder of everything the public lost and never truly forgave. Even within the royal family's inner circle, there's an understanding that Camilla's reign was never meant to lead. It was meant to support. She was always cast as Charles's partner, not the monarchy's cornerstone. And now, with Charles facing health concerns, that support structure feels too fragile to carry the full weight of the crown. What's more striking is the contrast. When Camilla stands next to Catherine, the difference in public response is impossible to ignore. Catherine draws admiration, curiosity, emotion. Camilla, though present, fades into the background. The spotlight lands on her, but it doesn't linger. And with the monarchy at a turning point, the royal family can't afford a placeholder. They need someone the world can believe in. Someone who reflects not just tradition, but transformation. And slowly, the whispers begin to grow. Not in opposition to Camilla, but in quiet realization that her moment may have passed. Whispers of a reversal. At first, it was just background noise, Scattered tweets, quiet conversations, subtle hints in the press. But now, it's grown into a low rumble, echoing through the palace halls. Catherine may be stepping into a far bigger role than anyone expected. What once seemed like social media fantasy has started to align with something very real. A shift in power that's not yet official, but increasingly impossible to ignore. Insiders say the conversation has changed. It's no longer about if Catherine takes center stage, it's about when. Behind the palace gates, there's talk of strategy, image, and legacy. The crown needs to stay alive in the hearts of the people, and it's becoming clear that Catherine, not Camilla, is the one who can make that happen. Her popularity isn't just strong, it's global. Her presence stabilizes the family's image, gives it dignity, and, most importantly, makes it likable again. Charles is said to be fully aware of this. Though fiercely loyal to Camilla, he also understands the delicate tightrope he walks. He wants to secure the monarchy's survival, not just defend the past. And for that, he may be quietly rebalancing the inner workings of the royal machine, placing more influence in Catherine's hands, preparing the world for a transition that won't be announced, but will be deeply felt. Even in public events, the signs are there. Catherine's appearances are now framed differently. She's not just accompanying William, she's commanding attention on her own. Photographers angle toward her. Commentators focus on her tone, her words, her actions. Camilla, though still queen consort, often slips into the background. And then came the reports. Leaks from well-placed sources. Claims that certain palace advisors are pushing for a long-term vision led by William and Catherine. Not just in name, but in influence. Those claims were never confirmed, but they didn't have to be. The idea was already gaining traction, because to many in the public, Catherine already feels like the true queen in waiting, not just by title, but by presence. This isn't about rebellion. There's no scandal, no confrontation. It's quiet, graceful, and deeply royal. A reversal that feels more like a recalibration, one that places the crown back into the hands of someone the people believe in. And if you listen closely now, the whispers are no longer whispers. They're a message. The future is arriving, and her name is Catherine. The coronation's hidden meaning. On the surface, it was everything the monarchy stood for: tradition, splendor, ceremony. The joint coronation of King Charles and Queen Camilla was meant to mark a historic beginning, a bold new era for the crown. But for many watching across Britain and around the world, something didn't sit right. The spectacle was grand, but the feeling was off. There were cheers, yes. There were crowds, yes. But the excitement didn't match the moment. Compared to the overwhelming national celebration that greeted Charles's mother, Queen Elizabeth II, decades ago, this coronation felt muted, more like a formality than a celebration. Royal watchers called it polished but hollow. And that subtle emptiness spoke volumes. The cameras caught every angle, but the most telling images weren't of Charles or Camilla. They were of William and Catherine, standing tall, poised, and undeniably magnetic. Catherine's composure and elegance during the ceremony lit up social media feeds. Viewers couldn't help but notice where the attention kept shifting. It was her, not Camilla, who left the lasting impression. Analysts pointed to how Catherine was positioned, not just physically, but symbolically. In key moments, she appeared at the king's side, engaged and grounded. Camilla, though crowned, often looked sidelined by comparison. And for those watching closely, It almost felt intentional. Even the tone of public conversation changed that day. Rather than celebrating a new queen, the focus drifted to what was missing. A strong emotional connection to the royal couple at the center of it all. Camilla, despite the crown on her head, didn't command the love or loyalty expected of a queen consort. And in that quiet gap, Catherine rose even higher. Without needing a title upgrade, she became the standout figure of the day. Her presence reminded people of the kind of royal they still believed in. Someone who brought both strength and softness. Someone who looked like the future. For those inside the palace, the message wasn't lost. The coronation may have been a formal passing of power to Charles and Camilla, but in the court of public opinion, a different transition had already begun. One that can't be scheduled, scripted, or televised. One that happens naturally, when the people start seeing someone else as the heart of the monarchy. And on that day, they saw Catherine, not just as the Princess of Wales, but as the real queen-in-waiting, already carrying the future on her shoulders with quiet confidence. King Charles's calculated decision. King Charles has always been a man who values tradition, but he's not blind to reality. As the world around the monarchy changes, he knows that survival depends on more than ceremony. It depends on connection. And behind palace doors, it's becoming clear. He's making a careful, quiet pivot. One that rewrites the royal order without ever saying it out loud. He's not abdicating. That's never been on the table. But insiders say the king is beginning to restructure the power dynamics inside the royal family. Slowly but deliberately. It's not just about who appears where. It's about who carries influence, and more importantly, who carries the public's trust. And Charles knows exactly who that is. Despite his loyalty to Camilla, and make no mistake, he remains fiercely protective of her. The king understands that she cannot anchor the future. Her support may matter to him personally, but it's Catherine who holds the nation's heart. And in this era of instability, affection has become the monarchy's most powerful weapon. So Charles is making moves, carefully assigning Catherine to more high-profile duties, especially those involving international diplomacy and major institutions. She's now the face of causes that define the crown's modern relevance: mental health, child development, education. Her voice carries weight, not just in Britain, but around the world. And with each appearance, her role becomes more central. Meanwhile, Camilla's schedule has quietly softened. She still appears, still performs the ceremonial duties expected of a queen, but her influence has been carefully dialed down. It's not a demotion, it's a redirection. She remains respected, but she no longer shapes the public vision of the monarchy. Charles, ever the strategist, knows this. Balance is delicate. He cannot afford to alienate his loyalists, nor can he ignore the shifting tide of public emotion. So he walks a fine line, honoring Camilla, while slowly elevating Catherine. Not with grand declarations, but with actions that speak louder. And those inside the palace see it happening in real time. Catherine is now part of every major conversation. Her input is taken seriously. Her presence at events, even when brief, carries authority. She's not just attending, she's leading, quietly but undeniably. The king's decision may never be made public. It doesn't need to be. Because the crown isn't just about titles, it's about energy. And as the energy shifts toward Catherine, Charles ensures the monarchy lives on, not through nostalgia, but through transformation. Catherine's leadership emerges. For months, the world waited. Rumors swirled. Paparazzi circled. The silence around Catherine's health became a story in itself. But when she finally stepped back into public view, something was different. This wasn't just a return, it was a statement. Gone was the question of whether she was ready. Her posture, her calm presence, her steady gaze, it said everything. Catherine wasn't just back. She was stepping forward. Observers quickly noticed a change in her role. She wasn't just accompanying William anymore. She was speaking with authority, moving with confidence, and appearing at the forefront of major royal moments. Her return wasn't rushed or dramatic. It was controlled, purposeful, and undeniably powerful. And it sent a message not just to the public, but to the palace. Catherine is now leading from within. Her signature project, the Shaping Us campaign, roared back to life with renewed attention. Media coverage expanded, public engagement skyrocketed, and international outlets began framing her as a humanitarian leader rather than just a future queen. Experts and commentators noted how Catherine's work wasn't just symbolic. It was structural, targeting deep issues like child development, trauma, and mental health, with long-term vision and real-world impact. Every move she made seemed to carry more weight. In joint appearances with William, she didn't just compliment him, she balanced him. In solo visits, she commanded full attention. And most importantly, she did it all without ever appearing to chase the spotlight. Inside the palace, her influence became hard to ignore. More and more, senior staff began involving her in strategy, planning, and high-level discussions. Her role wasn't just ceremonial anymore, it was central. Meanwhile, public response told its own story. Trust in the monarchy, which had dipped during turbulent years, began to stabilize. Approval ratings for Catherine soared. Social media buzzed with praise for her strength, elegance, and composure. She wasn't trying to replace anyone, she was simply being the royal the country needed. And as Charles quietly stepped back and Camilla retreated into a softer role, Catherine's emergence as a leading figure felt natural, not forced. She didn't demand power, it came to her. And now that she holds it, she's reshaping the monarchy from the inside out. This isn't just the rise of a princess, it's the rise of a modern royal leader, one whose grace speaks louder than words, and whose quiet strength is redefining what it means to wear the crown. Camilla quietly steps back. There was no grand announcement, no press release, no sudden shift in titles. But those watching closely saw it happen. Queen Camilla slowly began to step out of the spotlight. It started with fewer public engagements. Events that once featured both Charles and Camilla suddenly included usually the king, or, more often, Catherine and William. Speeches that may have once been Camilla's to deliver were now led by the Princess of Wales. And while no one inside the palace used the word retreat, the change was clear. Camilla was taking a step back. Those close to her say it was her decision. She never sought the limelight, and she was never meant to be the face of the future. Her role was to support the king, not command the throne. And now, as Charles faces health concerns and the public increasingly turns to Catherine, Camilla appears content to let the younger generation lead. Still, it's not without emotion. Camilla rose through decades of criticism, scandal, and public backlash to become queen consort. She worked hard to carve out space for herself, took on causes, shaped her image, earned the respect of the inner circle. And yet, despite all of that, she remains distant to the public eye. Her connection never ran deep. Her reign, while dignified, lacked spark. And now, as she scales back, it's Catherine who begins taking over roles once considered Camilla's domain. key patronages in. Literacy, women's health, and domestic causes are being realigned. A quiet shift that insiders describe as practical but permanent. There's no drama, no scandal, just a calm handing over of influence wrapped in royal discretion. The public seems to understand the shift instinctively. There's no backlash, no outrage, just acceptance, even relief. Camilla retains her title, her honors, her place beside the king. But in the eyes of the nation, she is no longer at the center of the story. It's a graceful exit, not from the monarchy, but from leadership. And in her place, a new figure rises, one with a fresh voice, a deeper connection to the people, and the ability to bridge tradition with modern life. Camilla hasn't been dethroned, but she has been quietly eclipsed. And in that quiet transition, the crown begins to shine a little brighter, reflecting not the past, but the future it now follows. People react, support, and backlash. As the balance inside the royal family shifts, so too does the reaction outside the palace walls. The people have noticed, and the world is responding. But not everyone agrees on what this transition means or whether it should have happened at all. Across social media and royal forums, support for Catherine's rise has turned from admiration to outright celebration. Commentators hail her as the quiet queen, the one who never had to ask for the crown to be seen as wearing it. Every appearance she makes is met with warmth. Every speech she delivers, no matter how short, trends within hours. To many, this is the moment they've been waiting for. After years of scandals, tension, and loss, Catherine represents something rare: stability with sincerity. She isn't chasing attention, yet she draws it. She doesn't talk about duty, she lives it. And for younger generations especially, she embodies a monarchy that feels human again. Real, kind, unshaken. But with the praise comes criticism. Camilla loyalists, a smaller but passionate group, believe the Queen has been unfairly pushed aside by public opinion. They call the shift a media-fueled coup, one that plays into emotion rather than fact. They argue Camilla earned her place, stood by Charles through decades of struggle, and shouldn't be cast into the shadows now that the tide has changed. Traditionalists, too, voice concerns. To them, the crown is not a popularity contest. It's about lineage, continuity, and order. Some see the rise of Catherine as a deviation from that structure. Too much focus on image, too little on duty as defined by hierarchy. But others push back, saying that is exactly the problem. The old model no longer works. The British press reflects this divide. Some headlines praise Catherine as the monarchy's true north, while others defend Camilla's dignified resilience. Yet, behind all the debate lies one unshakable truth. Public perception has already shifted. In homes across Britain, in whispers and conversations, the people are choosing. Not by protest or demand, but by who they feel proud to follow. And more, that person is Catherine. It's not a scandal. It's not a rebellion. It's a redefinition. And while voices may rise in defense of Camilla, history is already tilting toward the woman who, without asking for power, now quietly holds the heart of a nation. The monarchy's new era. Something has changed, and it's more than public opinion. It's the beginning of a new royal era, one shaped not by titles, but by trust. While King Charles remains the monarch in name and tradition, the image of the monarchy has transformed before our eyes. Not with fireworks, not with ceremony, but with the gradual rise of two figures who now define the modern crown: William and Catherine. Their presence feels different, polished but approachable, formal yet familiar. They've stepped into roles that go far beyond expectation. Together, they're rewriting the tone of royal leadership. And Catherine, in particular, has become the emotional core of that shift. Where Charles and Camilla once stood front and center, the younger couple now carry the monarchy's public identity without ever needing to declare it. Catherine's image now leads press coverage. Her speeches make headlines, and her causes generate action. Her ability to connect across generations and borders has placed her at the forefront of the crown's global influence. It's no longer just about showing up, it's about showing substance, and she delivers it effortlessly. Meanwhile, Charles focuses more on stability, behind the scenes, on matters of state, and with quiet dignity. He isn't stepping down, but in many ways, he's stepped aside, letting the public embrace the future without resistance. Camilla, too, remains a part of the story, but her role is now symbolic, ceremonial. There's no animosity, no dismissal, just a respectful distance as a younger, more dynamic duo takes center stage. It's the softest transition imaginable, but it's no less powerful. And this isn't just a family adjustment. It's a cultural turning point. The crown is no longer led by legacy alone. It's led by emotion, presence, and integrity. In Catherine, people see not just a royal, but a woman who reflects their own values: resilience, kindness, and grace under pressure. For the first time in years, the monarchy feels clear in its direction. Not because someone demanded change, but because the right person showed up when it mattered most. Catherine didn't just win the public's approval, she earned their trust. And in doing so, she reshaped the path of a 1,000-year institution, gently, powerfully, and without saying a word. The crown endures. But the face of that crown has changed, and her name is Catherine. No announcement, no drama, just a graceful changing of the guard. Catherine now leads where Camilla once stood, redefining royalty with poise and purpose. As Charles steadies the throne and Camilla retreats, a new chapter begins, one written not in scandal or silence, but in the quiet strength of a future queen.